coming up on The Source.
Good day. This is Dr. Curry coming to you from both The Source and Coffee with Curry. We want to make sure that we get this right. We want to make sure that every person is held accountable for those things that were done to the Torres family. All too often, especially in the state of Delaware, in the city of Wilmington, African Americans, Latinos, they get upset about something, and then all of a sudden it dies. We will not go away. We will not be deterred. There has to be justice for the Torres family. And I have made it my obligation to follow this to the end and to keep you updated. This is where we were able to first get evidence of the egregious behaviors of the attorney, Natalie. Watch this.
Oh, there you are. I've missed you so much. Oh, hi. Are you going into your house? The house that you rented?
Look.
Oh, look. You have someone else living there. Oh, my God. Look at that. The city will be notified tomorrow, you piece of shit!
And we're back. What I want to do is just, for those of you who are watching, I want to make sure that you clearly understand what the objectives are for this show. This is a special report, and we've been working tirelessly to make sure we track down and deal with all of the aspects of this case. Today's show, I'm going to talk about the history of white women deciding to make accusations against people of color, and how they have been empowered to do so and believed. That's number one. Number two, we're going to cover attorney Natalie Wollaston. We're going to cover her roles in the state of Delaware, why we look at her as being such a powerful force, and why she probably thought she can get away with whatever she wanted to do. We're going to talk about the different things that Miss Natalie wanted to charge the Torreses with, and the accusations that she made against them, so you can see clearly how many charges she levied against this one family who just wanted to live in peace. We're also going to talk about the violations we feel that she has committed and has to answer for. And last but certainly not least, we're going to try to cover who we are calling to respond to her egregious behavior and illegal acts that she have performed. Getting started, I just want to talk about history of white women who lie on people of color and get away with it. White women understand their power, and I'm not talking about every white woman, but for those who are guilty, yes, I'm speaking of you, who basically have made claims throughout history of America, of black people, people of color doing certain things. Immediately what came to my mind was the Amy Cooper case in Central Park. I'm going to show you some video just to refresh your memory of what happened during that episode. This gentleman, African-American male, was just bird watching. He saw a dog unleashed. he asked the woman to could you please leash your dog? And she, how dare you, black man, tell me what to do? And she accused this man of harassing her. You'll see the video in just a second. But one video you will see that every person in the African American community, as well as in the Latino community, should be able to clearly identify with, and that's Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old young man who was accused of raping a white young lady. And it wasn't until recently that she confessed on her dying bed that he didn't do it. But she was believed, and they mutilated this guy. And then we can even talk about Groveland 4, I guess you will call it Groveland 4. You're going to see all of these videos, a very short, brief synopsis of them, to just share with you, this is something that has been occurring in our country, and Miss Natalie, the attorney, basically felt empowered. Yes, we are going to deal with Jody too, but because it was perpetrated and started by the attorney, I want to make sure I keep the focus where it needs to be. We have to stop believing lies. And you will see how much her lies were believed by the officials who did what they call themselves doing and following up on her lies. But yet when the Terezes began to make claims, the police had to, it took 5, 6, 7, 8 different times before they even decided to make any moves at all. This is, as I was taught, preposterous. This is egregious. And there should be an outcry of disdainment for anything that has the appearance of discrimination. We're in the 21st century. We should not have to be able to not live wherever our money can afford for us to live. I want to stop there and allow you to see the 3 cases that I just mentioned, how a white woman decided to make a claim and it disrupt the lives of those that they made these false claims about. Let's take a look.
There is a family joke that you're not a Cooper until you've been arrested at a protest.
Christian Cooper and his sister Melody have been marching against injustice since before they were old enough to walk.
My mother would show up to protest with me and Chris in a stroller.
But they never imagined how cell phone video of a tense encounter would sweep them up in a national crisis. It happened just hours before George Floyd died.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Christian, a 57-year-old Harvard-educated science editor, was birdwatching in a wooded area of New York's Central Park called The Ramble when he encountered a woman whose dog was loose.
I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but dogs in the Ramble have to be on the leash at all times." And she said, "Well, the dog runs are closed."
What made you pull out the phone and start recording it?
Well, that's a little bit of the irony. It had nothing to do with race. It was just a conflict between a dog walker and a birder. Please don't come close to me.
I'm taking pictures, calling the cops.
Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
She basically pulled the pin on the race grenade and tried to lob it at me.
She says, though, at one point that you said to her, "Look, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, and you're not going to like it."
That's absolutely true.
He says he only planned to offer a treat to the dog to get the owner to leash it. It's an old birdwatcher's trick that dog owners tend to resent.
I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble.
At the point that she makes that phone call, it's very clear that, there is no physical threat to her at all. It's the iPhone and the dog treats.
But Christian Cooper says the woman, coincidentally named Amy Cooper, knew exactly what to say to get police to respond.
There is an African-American man. I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog.
She was going to tap into a deep, deep, dark vein of racism, of racial bias that runs through this country and has for centuries.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you yet. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
By the time police arrived, Christian and Amy both had gone.
All I could think of was the police arriving and throwing him to the ground and putting him in a chokehold.
Melody, a writer, was stunned and put the video on Twitter. Why did you think we all needed to see what had happened to your brother?
Please don't come close to me.
I had seen videos like this before. I'm through with it. I'm through with the weaponization of white women's tears. And there's a history of it from Emmett Till, which we all know.
Emmett Till was a 14-year-old savagely murdered in Mississippi back in 1955 after he whistled at a white woman. But she testified in court that he grabbed her and made sexual advances. There's a history of white women falsely accusing black men.
And it hit home, it struck a chord for me to see my own brother put through that.
Decades after the Emmett Till murder, the Coopers say many black people in America still tiptoe through daily life.
There's a reason why I've never worn contact lenses.
What do you mean?
Because people react differently to a black man who wears little round nerdy eyeglasses and to one who doesn't.
Really?
Oh.
Honestly, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Amy Cooper was fired from her financial services job. She released a written apology to Christian, which reads in part, "I hope that a few mortifying seconds in a lifetime of 40 years will not define me in his eyes."
I don't know whether she's a racist or not. I don't know her life. I don't know how she lives it. That act was unmistakably racist, even if she didn't realize it in the moment. I'm not sure someone's life should be defined by 60 seconds of poor judgment.
Melody?
Well, I disagree with Chris. I think that he's very much taking the higher road. His point of view is a little bit different than mine.
Either way, Melody believes defeating racism in America requires everyone to play a part.
If you're in the office and you hear someone making a racist comment, call it out.
Carolyn Bryant Dunham, the white woman who accused Emmett Till of making advances towards her, has died. 14-year-old Emmett Till was kidnapped and brutally murdered by Bryant's then-husband and his half-brother in Mississippi in 1955 over the allegation. The two men were acquitted in his killing by an all-white jury, but later confessed in an interview. The case gained national attention after Emmett Till's mother allowed Jet magazine to take and publish photos of her son's mutilated body in an open casket. The horrific image shocked the nation and served as the catalyst for the civil rights movement. Years after Till's death, Dunham admitted to fabricating parts of her story, although she was never charged with a crime. Professor Davis Haupt joins us now. He's a professor of rhetorical studies at Florida State University, and he helped found the Emmett Till Memory Project. He also co-authored a book about the media response to Till's murder. Professor Haupt, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me on, Jim.
Sure. I'd like to start by asking you about sort of any interactions you had with the Bryant family.
I did. Back in 2009, word got out that the family was shopping a memoir. And I edited a book series with the University Press of Mississippi, and so I figured, why not? I wrote a note to the family. I had an address, and I sent it. And of course, I didn't figure I'd hear anything. Well, a week later, I get a phone call from a woman who identifies herself as Marcia Bryant. Marcia Bryant is Carolyn Bryant's daughter-in-law. And Marcia Bryant, first of all, wanted to know, how did you know we had a manuscript? And then proceeded to talk my ear off for about a half an hour about her mom being innocent. And the family's really never spoken. And so I just tried to keep her on the line, keep her talking. But I'll never forget how she signed off as we were getting ready to hang up. She said, your letter came in the mail, and another letter came in the mail with it. And in that letter was a death threat. And so what I gathered from that was the family worked very hard over many years to protect her, because I think those death threats were not uncommon.
All right. So Carolyn Bryant herself hardly gave any interviews after the case. But if we have this right, in 2008, she reportedly told a historian by the name of Tim Tyson that key parts of her testimony were not true. So how does all of that figure into what her daughter-in-law was telling you? And what do you make of it?
Well, the FBI investigated Tim Tyson's claim that Carolyn Bryant supposedly recanted to him, and they did not find that evidence credible from Tim Tyson. And this summer, the unpublished memoir leaked. And for me, what's interesting is in that memoir, she sticks exactly to the story she gave on the witness stand on September 22nd, 1955. So I take her at her word, and her word, we know, is really just a bunch of lies. We know this because on September 2nd, just 2 days after Emmett's body was discovered, she was interviewed by a lawyer. And in that kind of deposition, she indicates what happened in that store. And Emmett did not put his hands on her. He did not talk dirty to her. He did not talk fresh to her. He did not talk about being with white women before. And so those were lies that she concocted on the witness stand 3 weeks later.
I just want to be clear about this, Professor. Never in the years after this did she ever express even a syllable of remorse, correct?
Well, in her memoir, she does do that, but she never did it in front of a camera. She never did it in a public venue. So you're right. The Emmett Till community, the family, wanted to hear from her directly, but that never happened.
All right, so the Bryant family obviously has had to live connected to this with a legacy. I'm just curious, have any of the other generations said anything about this in the almost 70 years since?
They really haven't. They've kept a real tight lid on her story. What I'll be interested to see is in the days and weeks ahead, did Carolyn Bryant perhaps leave instructions for somebody to talk? And we'll see. We've long wanted the family to say something. But again, the sons, the grandkids, nobody has said a word.
It's so important, obviously, to continue to tell the story of what happened. You have the Emmett Till Memory Project that you helped found to help do that. Can you just give us a little bit of insight into what the Emmett Till Memory Project is all about?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we founded this project back in 2015. It was a joint project between the University of Kansas, my colleague Dave Tell, and Patrick Weems at the Emmett Till Interpretive Center, and my colleagues here at Florida State. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to educate a new generation, especially younger generations who are growing up on smartphones and who can go to the Mississippi Delta as well as Chicago and study the case from their phones. So it's a GPS-enabled app that takes you from site to site and tells the story, along with archival images, as well as pretty detailed narratives of what happened at that particular location.
Professor Davis Houck doing some important work, making sure the memory of Emmett Till is preserved and what happened to him is never forgotten. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now to a breaking story out of Lake County. 4 African-American men are officially exonerated in a court of law known as the Groveland Four. The men were convicted for raping a woman in 1949 in a case that became a prime example of racial injustice from the Jim Crow era. News 6's Mark Lehman has more.
For the family of the Groveland Four, this is a moment they've been waiting decades for. While nothing can change the history of what happened back then, today's action is a reversal of what the state says is a tremendous miscarriage of justice. Cheers coming from a packed courtroom as it was made official.
Said conviction is hereby vacated.
Judge Heidi Davis approving a series of motions clearing the names of Ernest Thomas, Samuel Shepard, Walter Irvin, and Charles Greenlee, known as the Groveland Four.
Wow, it's been a long time coming.
Family of the men gathering after the decision that came 72 years after they were wrongly accused of raping a white woman in Groveland in 1949.
My father was a caring and loving, compassionate person that did not rape anybody.
And even though the men have all passed, a fight for their justice continued. Governor Ron DeSantis granting their pardons in 2019, their indictments dismissed after new evidence came forward, including tests of Irvin's pants in September.
This country needs to come together. We need courage.
The men's family is saying the decision will go a long way in helping everyone heal this holiday.
This Thanksgiving, we can have an entirely different atmosphere without this hanging over our head.
In Lake County, Mark Lehman, Getting Results, News 6.
And we're back. As we looked at those cases, it disheartens us to see that even in the 21st century, people feel empowered to still lie, prevaricate on people of color. If you don't know anything about the data, let me give you one fact that is a part of data. You can easily look this up. That people of color are 7 times more likely to be convicted of a crime that they did not commit. That's shameful. We live in a country that says you're innocent until proven guilty. But because the system is set up, if you are a person of color, you are guilty until proven innocent. This was her mindset. Someone said to me, well, it appears that she has an issue with drinking. I was taught that a drunk tongue speaks a sober mind, or it's just the opposite. I don't remember the exact quote. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The hate that she shared of this young man and his family spoke volumes of who she is. One of the things that Mr. Therese, Eli Therese, said is that there were some Mexicans who were working on the property for the homeowner, and the Mexicans left everything and said they don't even want their money. They don't want anything because she was such a tyrant and treated them as such animals that they couldn't even come back to complete their work. That's a person who have been empowered to believe that her privilege of being a white woman is higher, stronger, and better than anybody else. We hope this comes to an end for real and come to an end immediately. I want to turn your attention just for a second, and I'm going to try my best to pronounce her last name correctly. Attorney Natalie Woloshin. It's hard for me to pronounce it, and I apologize because I don't want to be disrespectful to her as well. But I want to share with you her role in the state, her role in the city, her role in the community. Everybody she reached out to knew her. But number one, and they will put these on the screen as I'm saying them, she is a partner with the Woloshins and Associates law firm. To my understanding, her father founded the firm, and now she's I believe, a key principal in the firm, and they do a lot of criminal defense and things of that nature, but yet she could not find it in her heart to have compassion for a family that's just trying to make better for themselves. That's number one. She's an attorney, noted in the state. Number two, she is a former district attorney for the state of Delaware. That bothers me. We often cry and complain about how many of our Black and people of color are making up the prison system. And we blame a lot of that on the prosecutors. But we have to be careful for even the attorneys who representing our brothers and sisters, because if all they want to do is cut a deal to keep you in jail, this may be what has been going on. I hope that they look at the cases that she represented as a assistant district attorney, and they begin to share and see whether or not she really did some African Americans and Latinos wrong. It's really sad that we have to come to this place, but arrogance and and privilege will make people cocky. And now we see the true color, the true nature of this woman. She served as assistant district attorney. She represented many cases. And you want to know why your grandchildren are sitting in jail right now off of a plea? Because if they were innocent or guilty, it's always going to be a plea because we can't prove it. But yet other communities do just as much, if not more crime, and don't spend the time. We have to watch racism on every level. Here's the final position that she has that we are aware of, our research have shown us. She currently serves the House of Representatives as the lead lawyer. So if we're going to put that on the screen, we're going to say House of Representative lead lawyer. She's the one who assigned all the attorneys to the various legislations that the House of Representatives put on the floor and vote on. Wow. And you want to know why some stuff get killed before it gets to the floor? I'm not afraid. I don't take the monies from the people. People do not buy me the fish dinners. As a matter of fact, I'm more or less an Allen who want to help. And I promised the Thereses that I was not going to leave them. This woman has power. And I'm building the case for those of you who are watching me to share with you that in order for racism to be executed, you have to have power. You can't just say a person is racist because they made a word or said a thing wrong. They have to have power and influence in order for it to become an ism. She is the model case of what racism is in America. I did reach out to her firm. I've not gotten a phone call back because I'm not afraid. I can talk to anyone. I want her to come on the show. Let her speak her piece. What drove her to be able, with all of this education that she has, what drove her to call this man a piece of, you heard the word. What drove her to call him a rodent? We have to get answers to this because she's not alone. She was caught. Thank God for the Terezes getting something as simple as a camera on their front door she was not aware of. And they were able to show it. And for every person who is hiding behind this case and acting as if you don't know what's going on, shame on you. And shame on you who are part of the African American and the Latino community who feels that all I'm doing is race baiting. Not so. I'm not race baiting. I'm calling the facts what they are, and I'm not going to be bought, bossed, or intimidated by those who continuously inflict racism on the community that I serve and on the community that I love and on the community that I'm a part of. We'll be right back. The third item on our special report is dealing with attorney Natalie Wolishin, her claims on the Terezes. So many of you have been calling and you've been thanking me for doing what we're doing. But there's some fog in what was she saying about them? What was she putting out there? What was her charges against the Terez family? I have 10 that I want to share with you. The first one, that they were squatters. Now that's a colloquialism. That means basically they have gone into a vacant property and taken residence without anyone's permission. Taken over the residence because no way in the world can a Latino and an African American live in our community without our permission. That was the first claim. The second claim was that they put a hit out on her life. Yeah. That's that whistle, dog whistle call. They're gonna kill me. He raped me. No, she didn't say that part. I'm just trying to show you the dog whistles. They want me dead. I'm scared for my life, to get the sympathy and the empathy of the other parts of the racist communities. Yes, she said that they were going to take her life. And then they later found that that's not even it. But let me just move there from there. The third thing is they were smoking marijuana in their house, on the porch, in the backyard, smoking marijuana. She must didn't know that the governor had to sign after it was vetoed that the bill that gave that legal, but that didn't even happen. But the point is, that was another one. And think about the racism of a black and a Latino. What do? They smoke dope. Unacceptable. Here's another one. They playing loud music. Our neighborhood doesn't have that kind of music. So if it's that kind of music, then that means it's too loud, it's out of control. Get them out of here. They're playing music that's too loud for us. We showed you on the show before this one, the little box that he had while he was working on his fence. It wasn't too loud. The box can't even get that loud, but that was one of her claims. Here's another one. They scratched up my vehicle. It's a mesmerizing that she could make these claims and couldn't prove them, but let's just leave that. They scratched up my vehicle. That was another claim she made. She made a claim that basically says that they are living in a property, this is a claim she made to the city, without running water. That's why she probably called him a rodent. They're living in a property without running water. Here's another claim that they are living in a property with no electricity. And this is, I'm not joking you. Some of you are saying, are you serious? No, I'm serious. As they come, she shared with the city and others. We have it all documented now. That these people are barbaric. They're living without water. They're living without electricity. And then here's another claim she had. They are a piece of SHIT. In my community, they call it sugar, honey, iced tea. I don't use that language, so I can't say that word even in trying to repeat her. But this is, she claimed that they are a piece of SHIT. That was a claim of hers. You heard that on the video. She also said that they were rodents, as I've just said. Rodents. I looked up that word because I was wondering, why would she think that they were that low? Couldn't you just call them an animal? No, because a rodent is lower than an animal. If you call them an animal, it could be a dog, and they're dog lovers, especially some of these white racist folks. They're dog lovers. So no, they're not animals. They are a rodent. They're the scums of the earth, and they got to get out of our neighborhood. And then number 10, and this is the one that bothered me a lot too. She claimed that their 14-year-old honor roll student or son threatened her life. We saw the video where she was provoking him. And because he was going to respond because he's 14. He doesn't have the same strength or endurance to be able to take the person constantly coming at him. And she said basically he threatened her. Now, think about all of these charges. I gave you 10: squatting, putting a hit out on her life, smoking marijuana, playing loud music, scratching up her vehicle, living in a property with no water, living in a property with no electricity. They are SHIT. They are rodents, and that the honor roll student basically threatened her life. All of these charges, I asked the captain of the Wilmington Police Department when I met with him, which of these charges that y'all found true? Which of these charges had some validity in it? He said, I have no evidence of any of them. Wow. Wow. You mean this family is put through hell, accused, cops coming, L&I coming out at nighttime. That's another problem. Coming out at nighttime, following up on all of her false accusations. You see how they believed her? Police are coming to make sure the music is down, making sure there's no disruption of the peace. The L&I coming out to see, and L&I didn't even have to come out. All they had to do was call Delmarva. All they had to do was call the water department of their own department to see if or not the water is running. But they showed up in the middle of the night and they believed her lies without any proof. Is Pastor Curry mad? No, my righteous indignation is very vexed. But this is not something that is strange. It happens every day, even here in the city of Wilmington. Different levels, different stations, but racism is live. And when she made her claims, she called her people went out investigating, trying to find something wrong with the Terezes. But they outsmarted her. Yeah, she got the university degree. Yeah, she's the lawyer. Yes, she got the jobs to dictate and to decide what kind of legislation gonna get on the floor. But you got two working class minorities who decided to just get a camera because nobody's going to believe us. And I think those of you who are watching me, please hear me carefully. It is hard for us to make a claim. Why do you think she had to go 5 to 7 times before she can even get any traction? She ended up coming to me after the video, and the people had already seen this video. I'm not the first person to break the video, but once I broke it, it then opened the door for other channels to get it. This is unfair. This is not right. None of this have been proven. None of their charges have been proven because they're all lies. But when you are a part of that group that think you're better than somebody else, lies become truth, and we can't tolerate it. And we won't tolerate it. No, I'm not trying to get 1,000 preachers to help me, 1,000 black lives. No. It's going to happen the way it needs to happen because she's going to be held accountable. We have enough proof here. And from this point forward, everybody's going to be held accountable. We shouldn't have to go through this much proof in order for a person to be acknowledged for who they are. White privilege is nothing to me. We are all God's children. We are a part of this country. This is just as much my country as it is anyone else's. My people built this country on their labor. And for us to believe that we can't live wherever we want to live, wherever our money will afford us, it's unacceptable and will not be tolerated. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk about the violations we believe that Natalie committed. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're just having a very strong truth, a moment where we are trying our best to make sure that when this gets out to the public, they know that we did our homework. I've asked the Terezes to please stay resolute and not do much talking, because we can't afford the big time attorneys and the lying politicians who act like they with us because they are our color and hide behind whatever they're hiding behind. We're going to continue to push this train forward, and we're looking for some results. The question at hand now is, what violations do we believe, our research dictates that Miss Natalie what violations do we believe she committed? Number one, and it's 3 that we're looking at right now. Some we don't have enough proof on some others, but there's 3. Supplying false information to authorities. Number 2, and I'm gonna break them down. Racism and discrimination. And number 3, harassment. All 3 of them are violations of the law. All 3 of them are violations of the state of Delaware's law. And all 3 of them are violations of federal law. This can easily be considered as a hate crime. But we want to make sure you understand, number 1, supplying false information to authorities. What is that, Pastor Curry? Well, it's providing information to an official that is false. No electric, no water. This is all to the city by itself, and they are officials. No right to be where they are, squatting. All of this was followed up. So that means she supplied false information to them, making comments and sending out people to respond to stuff that is just not true. Well, Pastor Curry, what is the penalty? What is the penalty? The penalty is a Class A in the general misdemeanor, but it's a Class F felony when you provide false information to law enforcement. Now, she's violated both. She violated it to the city, and she also did it to the police department. She talked about the marijuana. She talked about being there illegal. All of this was reported to the police about how they threatened her life. That's the big one. How they got a hit out on her. See, she knows her issues. She's well aware of it, but the community at large is not, because we don't always look at the law. We expect the law to protect us, but I had to go do some digging. We had to do some digging because, again, I'm not just Dr. Curry because of somebody gave me a degree. We learned how to read. We learned how to dissect things, and I'm very concerned that she really got a Class A or a Class G felony. And it needs to be addressed appropriately. I'm not going to get before myself. And the police of Wilmington, as well as the city of Wilmington, and even the Bar Association needs to answer how come charges have not already been filed. These things have been violated and it needs to be addressed. But I'll move a little bit further. Racism and discrimination. Racism. You got to have power. You have to have influence in order to get an ism. Racism is a negative act against an individual or group based on their race or ethnicity. Listen, it's no joke that Mr. Torres is a Latino and Mrs. Torres is black. As a matter of fact, one of the comments he made is still ringing in my head. She tried to view him as an illegal Mexican. Asked for his paperwork, and then one of the officials, I can't remember which one, so I don't want to say it on the air, but one of the officials asked him for his paperwork as if he was an illegal immigrant. This is the racism that unnerves me. And you may say, well, Pastor Curry, what can happen? That's a felony. We can put this as a hate crime. 20 to 30 years in prison easily. What are you going to do, Attorney General? What are you going to do, Chief of Police? What are you going to do, Mr. Mayor? Are we just going to have our little sips of coffee and tea and wine and let this breeze under the table? There's going to be some uncomfortability if that happens. No threats. We just have to be honest and show you. We have to show that we're not going to tolerate this. Here's the third one. Harassment. That's a third charge that we believe that she has committed. Harassment is a negative act against an individual or group based on, I'm sorry. Harassment, I was reading the wrong one. Harassment is defined as pervasive conduct that creates an environment that a reasonable person would consider intimidating, hostile, or abrasive. Let's read that again. It's pervasive conduct, consistent conduct. We watched what this woman did. She even walked down the steps of one of the videos and she stood there and waited for him to come with his dog, minding his business. She was creating the environment. Get out of here, colored people. Get out of here. You don't belong in the 8th district. Go on over to the 2nd district. Go on over there to the 3rd district. Don't come in our community infesting it by being a rodent. She created the environment to get them. You heard what she did with the Mexicans who were working on the house. They weren't even living there. They're just trying to fix the house up. She ran them straight out. What more evidence do you need? This is just unbelievable. But it is a conduct where the environment is polluted. And I like the way the law puts it in there. They use the word reasonable. A reasonable person, not one who has 78 degrees, but a reasonable person will be able to see, I'm uncomfortable. This is inappropriate. I do not want this. I don't want this environment. But what I don't think Natalie's people taught her is that for real, African Americans, especially sisters, they don't scare easily. Neither does Latinos. And instead of them running, they decided to fight back. And what I'm glad about is that they didn't fight back with violence because they would have lost every round. But we're fighting back this way. What are you going to do, Attorney General? You can hide behind your desk as long as you think you can. You won't return my call. What are you going to do, Mr. Mayor? What are you going to do, Chief? Now, I will say the chief have tried his best to respond as best that he can. But I got questions I need answered. And to do nothing, unacceptable. I'm sorry. We have our little meetings about everything else. We have our little meetings about making sure Curry don't get his plan together for that building that he was building for the seniors who desperately need housing in the city of Wilmington. So you meet about all that stuff and make sure that doesn't happen. What are you doing about this overt racism? Harassment. Now you may say, well, Pastor, what is the penalty for harassment? According to the law book, it's a misdemeanor. It comes with jail time up to a year. And it can also be considered as a federal crime because we're going to keep that race piece in there. And it can be up from 5 to 10 years. All depends on how we're doing it. I want to say to all of you who are watching me that this is not a joke. And this is not just some little preacher in the South Bridge section of the city making some name for himself. I already got a name for myself. I in the academic world as well as in the church world, I'm fine. I'm happy. But if God pulled me out of a situation and I forget Jerusalem, the place from which I've come from, let my right hand lose her cunning and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. I will never forget that I am Black. I will never forget I came from poverty. And I will never forget it was the help of all who have got me to where I am today. My job now is to give back to those who do not have a voice, to give back to those who do not have an opportunity to fight back other than to fight illegally. We have a legal channel. Yes, we've been talking about we need a inspector general for the state of Delaware. We need one more now than ever before. We need media outlets. It's a shame one little channel, one little show in a state is really covering this. But we're going to continue to cover it. And I'm glad for all of my YouTube watchers. I'm glad for all of my Facebook watchers. I'm glad for all of you who are just pouring in, saying, keep it rolling. And we want to know what the answers are. Some have already said we're ready to join you. We'll be right back. And we're back. Today, we had an opportunity to talk about the history of white women lying on people of color. We had an opportunity to talk about Attorney Natalie's role within the state. We talked about her claims. There were 10 of them that we have listed against the Terez's family, of which she did not have any proof to any. None of them have been certainly launched, but they all have been investigated. We talked about the violations we believe that she has committed. And finally, I want to just talk about who we're calling on to respond. We're calling on the chief of police. There are crimes here. We've given you the footage. It's time to respond. You cannot continue to say have patience when since February the 16th, all we have done is to have patience. Mr. Chief of Police, you're a good man. As I've talked to you, and I hope that we're able to work on some things in the city, but you have an obligation Do not be derelict in your duty. Do not let a job or a person push you into a corner where you forget from whence you've come. You are a product of the city of Wilmington. You know truth and you understand truth. The one video we have put out there where she called them a piece of you know the word, that's really enough to show the environment, because it took them a while to get the cameras up, that she put them in. Harassment, racism, unacceptable. Then I'm calling on the Attorney General. You can't just assign this to anybody who may be her friends. No. You have to be held accountable. I know you're near the retirement probably age and you just don't care. You're just going to move on. But I hope that is not the case, because you know what? Your grandchildren have to be able to look future African Americans and Latinos in the face. What did your grandmother do when they were faced with truth, given the evidence that another fellow white woman lied on a colored family, or shall I say a family of color? What did you do? Did you try to find a way not to charge her? Well, we don't have enough evidence. Take it to court. Let the jury and the judges decide that. It's time to charge her for the crimes that she has committed. We're calling for the Attorney General. Speak up and charge her. We're also calling for the Speaker of the House. Pete, I called you this week. As of the timing of the taping of this show, you have not returned my call yet, but I called you because I'm man enough to talk to any person about truth. He told Jeremiah, fear not their faces. Lift up your voice like a trumpet and cry loud. This woman works directly for you. And that creates problems for me. Are you going to let her stay in that position as attorney for the state of Delaware that my taxes and a lot of our taxes are paying for? When you see this type of evidence, is she that much in your clique, your crew, that you can excuse her behavior? I had an opportunity to talk to my representative. She didn't give me her outcome at this point. It's a personnel matter, and she's right. Valerie Longhurst, she's a majority leader. She can't do anything. It's not her role. So I'm not going to even judge her right now. And I didn't get a chance to talk to Mimi yet, who is the majority whip. I call all three of you on purpose because I want the leadership to whom she works for to know that we are not happy and we're not going away. And if this is the behavior that you all are perpetrating as representatives for the state of Delaware, there needs to be a shift, because racism will never be tolerated. I'm also calling on the mayor. Oh, there he is again, talking about the mayor. Yeah, I'm calling on the mayor. Listen, your L&I went out there at nighttime. What was the emergency? If you didn't order it, Mr. Mayor, who ordered it? And whoever ordered it, why did you order it without the facts? That was a part of the intimidation. Showing up at a person's door, knocking on it. The woman had just came out of the shower. She shared that on the air. Petrified. Her son is petrified. The husband is not even at home. He's out working, trying to make a living for the family. But you all showed up. Mr. Mayor, who authorized them to go out there and check on this? Because everything they needed to do to verify can be done in the office, not in the middle of the night. This is wrong. It led to supported the intimidation of this family. Unacceptable, and we will not permit it. Mr. Mayor, what are you going to do? Is L&I allowed to do this? Mr. Boykins? Commissioner Boykins? This is how we roll? Our job is more important than our commitment to humanity? I'm really interested in knowing what the outcome is going to be, because I really want to know who ordered that and why. And was this a part of the custom? Because then I'll just start naming some stuff, and I want y'all to go investigating it if need be. Let me also say The Bar Association. Delaware Bar Association, I read your letter, and you are egregiously wrong. How dare you say you don't see this as harassment? What are you looking at? I know she's well connected. I know she's a part of your girls' club, the sorority and the fraternity of the elite of the world in Delaware. Wrong is wrong. And listen, Dr. King said something that I want to share with you. He said the only thing for evil to continue to happen is for good people to see it and say nothing. If you're going to sit back and continue to allow this type of behavior, then maybe we can go ahead and put the label that you're racist too. Because when you don't speak up against something that you're not, it's because you are. So many African Americans and people of color cannot even pass the bar examination. And people act like, well, we're going to lessen the standard. No, you don't have to lessen the standards. We know that it's not designed for them to pass it. But when we get a letter where you basically are saying, hey, we don't see nothing wrong with what's going on here. What that simply says to us is that you're part of the problem. How she can get away with that, I don't know. Let me say to Miss Jody, this show today was about Natalie because she's the one who started all this. She pulled you in, but you can't be pulled into something that you're not really a part of. People can't pull me in things I don't believe in. And I'm very, very concerned. Christiana Care is going to have to answer. That's an imaging issue now. We have a lot of African Americans who are utilizing the services over in the Helen Graham, where they have been getting that chemotherapy. You are part of that. And some of the lies that you put out there, and we're doing our research because we're moving slow, don't mean we ain't moving. We're going to make sure that you are handled as well. We started with Miss Natalie because she is the perpetrator. She's the one who started it. She's the one who continued with it, who put out the most poison. But it ain't about the most. It's about who committed crimes. So Ms. Jody, please note that I'm going to be talking to the folks at Christiana Care. I'm going to put calls out to them. I'm going to send the media their way. Is it that Christiana Care is racist? Is it that our care is in the hands of those who don't like people of color? That's an imaging issue I see. And if they will permit this to be, shame on them. But we're going to make it known. For all of you who've been watching us, we're going to stay on this. My co-hosts, Shanae Jarby, as well as Kobe Owens, are not with me today because I wanted to make sure this special report was given directly from me. And I'm going to continue until we get some outcomes, and I'm going to share outcomes as they happen. Because if there is no outcome, there has to be an outcome. I thank you for the time that we shared together today, and I hope that as we continue to go through this case, you will understand that I'm not grandstanding, I'm not race baiting, I'm calling it what it is. And as a matter of fact, we need to make sure all of our African American and Latino organizations start fighting for the people and not for their purses, not for their prestige, and not for their possibilities. We have to be the voice to show that you can't buy us. You can't get us in the room. And one of the reasons why I'm not working with the committee is I don't want the committee to be pulled apart. You go to the mayor and you go to the chief and you go and y'all work out a deal and then I'm left in the middle. It has happened too many times before. We're going to keep this rolling until we are satisfied with the outcomes. Until next time we get together, may the Lord God bless you real good.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.